Hello, it's Nikki. Welcome to episode 13. Today I want to talk about creating your own success bubble. Now, I was explaining to my son earlier about the days, the dark ages of not having the internet, of not having next day delivery, of growing up in a village where I was reliant on a lift the whole time. I realized with my kids, we don't live in central London, but you can get into central London very quickly and easily. From door to door, I can be in Oxford Circus within half an hour. And they would actually, not that I would send them because they're 6 and 10, but they would be able to get there by themselves. It's a very straightforward journey. And I was saying that therefore I needed to plan. I needed to think about things. And so when I finally got to a big shopping situation, I would have a list, and I realized how differently they are operating because everything is on their doorstep. And so alongside the conversation of how brilliant the internet is and how many options, I don't believe that all inspiration is useful. In fact, sometimes it can be stifling, it can spark comparison, it can make us feel like we're inadequate, that where we are is not okay. We can assume that everybody else has got it figured out. And actually, what we need to do when we're in this period of growth is to be very clear about what we're consuming, to really notice how noisy the internet is, and just tune in to the parts of it that make you feel good. So almost like a radio in the morning. There could be really, and I remember this as a kid, the news would be on, and it felt, in the 80s or 90s, it felt very serious, and this is what is happening in the world, and it was very gloomy. Like there was no optimism necessarily. And so I realized in my own room, I wanted to have some music to get me going, to feel buoyant and ready for the day in that way. And this is what we have to do with everything that we consume, from the YouTube channels to the podcasts to the things that we open, the people that we follow, the stuff that we subscribe to be really mindful of this. And even in the conversations that we have, when I'm in I guess I'm very selective about what I share with certain people. And I have business friends who are not just going to tell me everything is amazing and I'm great and all the rest of it. They're going to speak the truth to me. But I also know they're going to do it in a way that it serves me, rather than just saying something negative for the sake of it and it being about their stuff. I want you also to recognize the things that your personality needs and how you learn and progress. I remember seeing a personal trainer, and this personal trainer, just had this very binary way of operating. This personal trainer was basically like, right, you are here, I'm in charge, I know better, these are my standards, make sure you meet them. Now, I love a bit of discipline, and I love it when people see more for me than sometimes I see for myself. However, kindness, compassion, humanity, connection, engagement are also really important. And so what you have to do, or what I require somebody to do, is to measure what the expectations are based on what is happening right now. So say I was going and I was pregnant. I'm not, but I was pregnant and I just wanted to keep like my cardiovascular fitness up whilst I was being pregnant. By the way, when I was pregnant, I couldn't walk at some points because I had a really terrible back, and also I was just vomiting everywhere. So found like it was safer and easier and better for everybody else that mainly I stayed at home. But that's another story. So if that expert was training somebody who was in their second trimester versus a 19-year-old who was a semi-professional athlete, they would have to meet them in a different way. And so it's the same with our own personalities. We have to really tune in to how we thrive and identify it and understand it so we can work with it, rather than feeling like we're fighting and we're squeezing and we're trying to do something different. Lean into the flow of how you work. Next, I want you to think about what is going to give you the result. And as I guess a part 2 of this, what's going to give you the result and what's going to help you make the right choice. So when I think about, say, my day ahead, mainly I love healthy food. However, if I buy loads of chocolate, loads of processed foods, I'm not going to be just like, well, I'm not going to eat them because they'll be in my fridge. And I don't like food waste, and I don't want things just to, go to waste in that way. And so what I will end up doing is kind of falling into that thing of eating all the junk, like I would at Christmas. I enjoy all of the things. However, what I need to work out is how I set myself up for success. And I know I'm more likely to eat more fruit and veg if I buy it and if I see it. If we've got a massive fruit bowl on our side, and if that fruit bowl is full, it's going to get eaten and I'm going to have more of the good stuff. And so I want you to think about what those principles are that will give you a result. Finally, how do you thrive? How do you expand rather than survive and retreat? I think understanding your process is really key. So for example, if I'm working on something, if I'm growing in some area, if I'm really pushing myself out of my comfort zone, if I'm introducing a new habit, one of the first things I will always do is I'll talk to my family about it. I'll say, this is what I'm doing, this is why I'm doing it, this is what I'm hoping to achieve, this is the process, this is what I've tried so far, this is what has not worked. I bring them in rather than going, right, I've just got to do all of this thing and everybody else has got to figure it out amongst me, around me. In fact, I go the opposite way because I know I'm much more likely to succeed at that goal if I have support of those around me. So I would love you to answer those questions today and to create your success bubble. Because bear in mind, when you are growing and changing, people are going to notice. People are going to have questions. People are going to say silly things or maybe negative things, maybe passive aggressive things that do not serve you. It's totally for their own benefit. So instead of you just constantly feeling like you're being reactive, I would love you to have that sense of space where you are in a grounded spot, where you can be clear and concise and conscious and also have your eye on the prize. If you are not subscribed to the Secret Series, please do so. If you haven't watched the workshop, all the details are down below. And finally, if you are ready to make some mega moves and really take your success, your personal brand to the next level, I'd love to hear from you. Let's book in a complimentary call. You can do that by just emailing me hello@nikkiraby.com. Lots of love. See you next time.